All right, folks, can we get started? It's a little past 7. Traditionally, we start around 5 minutes late, but that's pretty good, actually. So, welcome to our second forum for Bolton's Master Plan. Oh, okay. The first one was organized 2 years ago, or more. This one follows on with the process that we've gone through, in which we've now developed additional information about the as-found condition, the existing condition of the town, and established some draft goals. And that's the principal focus of this forum, to do so. So let me pass to the person leading it from PSC Group, Olivia Knightley, and she will conduct the overall forum.
All right, thanks, Bob. Just wanted to say thanks for taking time out of your week to come in, be a part of the community and the engagement process for the master plan. It's super important to the overall process, and I know BSC and the steering committee really appreciate it. The Master Plan Steering Committee is comprised of members of the community, many of who are here tonight to help support the public forum and also participate as community members. And I wanted to say welcome to Pamela Harding, the new town planner, who's been super valuable to the process, even in such a short time. And then from BSC tonight, we have Heather Gould, who's the Director of Planning, who you probably met on your way in. Myself and Russell Burke, Kat Martinez, and on Zoom we have 2 other of our planners who are helping to facilitate a virtual portion of the forum. So we're going to do the brief presentation and then break out into small groups, come back together at the end and do a share back, and then wrap up the meeting around 9 o'clock. A master plan is a long-range, town-wide plan that helps to guide the next 10 to 15 years of decision-making. It really tries to tell a story about what the current community looks like and the direction that it's looking to go, including certain values, visions, and goals that the town has set for the future. That's why processes like this are really important, because you guys help us to develop these values and themes. And then as well, it identifies actionable items that the town can pursue to help achieve the set goals. It really outlines them in a very specific way that makes it manageable over time and can help the town to pursue funding in the future as well. The purpose of this forum is to provide a project update and educational materials to the community. Engaging community members in the process, like I mentioned, is invaluable to the process. It really helps to form a well-rounded master plan and helps to identify goals that are meaningful to the community and representative of your hopes and visions for the future. We're going to review draft goals and help to garner some collaborative feedback tonight from all of you guys, and also listen to your experiences as residents and help to develop the overall vision of the master plan. So public engagement up until this time, in 2020, the steering committee conducted a survey to collect input from residents. Community members reported that they had concerns about primarily traffic management, expanding business opportunities, developing a community center, and prioritizing senior housing options. In October of 2021, a public forum was the first forum that was conducted by the steering committee. And this was organized to cover the progress since the 2006 master plan, and it discussed some of the existing conditions and conducted interactive feedback sessions, much like what we'll be covering today. In 2023, this past year, BSC conducted another survey where we asked residents to rank their priorities and concerns. So land use and open space and recreation were the topics that residents reported to be most interested in. And a summary of the surveys and prior public engagement can be found on the project website. The 1971 comprehensive plan was the first type of master plan that the town pursued. At the time, the population was around 1,900, and planning goals included preparing for growth, preserving natural resources, preventing rapid growth at an unmanageable rate due to lack of certain municipal services like water and sewer, and strategic development, as well as preserving the community character. 35 years later, the 2006 master plan was produced, which expressed many of the same concerns and is a testament to the community preservation and local values that the town has. Rapid population growth was also a primary focus of the 2006 plan, which introduced strategies to moderate growth and development. It focused on open space preservation and increasing housing stock, as well as meeting the state's affordable housing requirements. Since then, the town has met those requirements with newly approved housing, and many of the themes envisioned from these two earlier plans coincide with today's themes and aspirations that we see in the community, and certain recommendations from the 2006 plan will be carried into the update. Again, these can be found on the project website if you're curious to read them. So the Master Plan Steering Committee has set 3 intentions for the update, which is to preserve community character, encourage development, and to provide a framework for change. And they've developed a vision statement that discusses the importance of a thriving and fulfilling community that can be a home to a diverse population and encourage lifetime residents. The core values that they've established are community, opportunity, mobility, and environment. So these are the components of the master plan update. Some of these are required by Mass General Law, and then others, for example, water and sewer, are additional topics that the town feels are important to include in the update. Also included in each chapter will be goals and policies which identify a pathway forward for the municipality and future growth. Developing an interactive public process like this is very important to identify the trajectory of the town and where residents would like to see it move in the future. And today, Bolton's population is about 5,665 people with a median age of 42. Projected population growth estimates are not anticipated at this time to exceed the 6,000 people, but in the upcoming decade, with certain development on the horizon, the town may begin to see the population exceed these estimates. And there are approximately 1,853 total households in town, with a majority of those as family households. And the average household size is about 3 people. Census data tells us that there's a greater population of those middle to 65 and up in age, and this portion of the population is kind of expected to remain more in the older population as the town grows over time. We see a trend of fewer children and young adults, and this chart on the bottom kind of maps out different projections of age growth over time. And planning in Bolton since the 2006 master plan has been very active, and the town is engaged in numerous planning exercises and studies to develop a better understanding of local resources, open space, hazards, climate threats, housing needs, and economic development opportunities. These reports outline a lot of challenges, goals, and opportunities for the town, and these have all been reviewed to inform the master plan update that we're working on, and will be included in the final implementation matrix in the form of goals, which we will be reviewing drafts of tonight. And again, all of these can be found online if you're curious about any topic. The key themes of the master plan update have been identified through the previously mentioned reports and studies and efforts of the steering committee in the form of focus groups that they have formed and become their own experts on certain topics. These key themes are to ensure public facilities, utilities, infrastructure, and services meet community needs, to create greater housing diversity suitable for residents in every stage of life and income level, engage in planning for climate change and resiliency throughout the community, to moderate growth and pursue thoughtful development, to protect open space and natural resources, improve traffic, connectivity, mobility, and safety, and to enhance and preserve local history, cultural resources, and properties. And we hope that these themes are reflected throughout the draft goals that you'll read tonight. So additional information, we have a crowd map that is an online map where you can map areas of concern, areas to improve, and areas to preserve. But we also have a hard copy by the entrance tonight if you would like to participate on paper. This is found on the project website along with the existing conditions report, which is about a 60-page summary of prior planning efforts and the town's current status, including demographic information and some informative maps like the ones that you will see tonight. So for our small groups, we're going to be reviewing the draft goals that we've produced. So the intention is that as you came in, you were assigned a certain color, so you'll sit with your designated color-coded group. And we're going to take about an hour and change to go over these goals and receive your initial feedback, whether you think the goals accurately describe your concerns for the town, whether you think there's certain goals that are missing, or whether you think there's something that needs to be addressed entirely outside of the goals. This time is for community feedback, so we're happy to hear anything you guys have to say. The groups will be facilitated by BSC team members, and we'll have certain members of the steering committee within each group. And we're going to be sequentially going through the chapters, but keeping in mind the time restrictions that we're under tonight, so taking around 5 to 10 minutes per topic. And then if the group's really interested in one topic, we can prioritize discussing those towards the end if we're running short on time. We will need one volunteer note taker, but if a member of the steering committee wants to take on that role, that would be great. Otherwise, a member of the public is welcome too. And then we would like one volunteer to share back key findings to the room. And then if nobody feels comfortable, one of the facilitators can share back on your behalf. So like I mentioned, this is going to be approximately 1 hour, and we just ask that you're mindful of when others are speaking, to listen and ask questions when you need clarification on something, and just be respectful towards facilitators, and just be ready to share your thoughts at the end. Okay. Do we all know what group we're assigned to? I believe the posters have your color sticker on them. So if green is up here, red I think is back there, yellow's on the far left. So, I hope your small group discussions were productive. I know we covered a lot of material, and I'm sure there's a lot of key takeaways from each topic, but I was hoping that we could go through each group and say shortly a summary of maybe key 3 findings or major takeaways that your group covered, whether that's one key theme from one of the chapters or 3 key themes from one of the chapters. Maybe you were very inspired by transportation, but if we could start maybe over here. I think this microphone's working. If somebody wants to come up and speak up at the front.
You're talking for it.
I can.
You want to read it if you want to?
Anybody want this? Yeah, Zoom.
Let the selectmen talk first.
That's okay. You'll be loud.
So our group was like, are we gonna fill an entire hour? And then we just couldn't shut our mouths. So we, couple highlights. People are very concerned about how much all of this stuff is gonna cost. And so when we were going through things, we were kind of thinking about like, what are the things that you could get grants for and what is, gonna come out of people's pockets. People really like the idea of utilizing the Bolton Common as an intergenerational meeting space, maybe by retrofitting some of the existing structures so that they could be like multi-seasonal. I don't know if that's possible, but I thought it was kind of interesting. We had a comment about when it comes to accessibility, making sure that the users are involved in the design, so you're not creating bike trails or walking trails without those folks being on the planning committee. People really interested in like an electronic version of the welcome packet that used to happen a while ago. Let's see what else.
Easel?
No, it's a weasel. That's what that is.
Brian, just for information, the welcome wagon's coming back, the Friends of the Library,
That's awesome. That's great. One other thing on emergency preparedness, I think there's a role, we do have plans in the town. People were saying that there should just be better communication about the plans that already exist, so that's a good one. Water and sewer, there was some interest in public water in certain areas of town, and maybe, I forget the exact term, but like you have a special betterment for those regions. And then educating folks just about what it means to be a private well owner. There are more folks with private wells in the western part of the state, but closer to Boston, a lot of people that move to Bolton have never had a well before, so it's good for them to be educated. All right, prevent big box development. I'm sure we've all heard that before. There's an interest in maybe exploring whether the DPW is in the best location and whether where it currently is sited could be better used with some development, which was an interesting idea. And then, let's just see, we spent a lot of time talking about municipal services, and we kind of zoomed through the last part. Liz, Maya, what?
Traffic?
Oh, traffic. Everybody hates traffic. And then, actually, no, so this question about like, why can't the speed limit from basically, the highway almost to Bolton Orchards just generally be slower? Like it seems strange to people that you go 30 and then 45 and then 20 and then 45. So I don't know the answer to that. Somebody here probably does, but we were wondering about that. Anything else I forgot?
Well, I think the point is keep it 30.
Yeah, like keep it 30 the whole way would be great. I don't know if other people think that's a bad
I think
idea.
that's the state, you guys, it's the state who's mandating that.
Yeah. All right, who wants to go next?
Well, I was just gonna add, we were talking about not wanting big box development, like working on the business zone development to really focus on like small pad, retail, restaurant type of development. Like we talked about in Sudbury, and I don't know if anybody's been to Mystic Aquarium, but there's like next door to that, there's like these small shops. So if there was a way to zone, a small pad kind of destination like retail type development, that's basically based on the surveys, kind of what people want versus bigger business. So a way to think ahead and entice those type of developments versus bigger businesses.
Agricultural, you talked
Oh, yeah.
about that.
Oh, yeah, I think we were saying that, we wanted to do whatever we could to keep the agricultural, if there was any way to, allow for a better way to allow for accessory businesses, and also, just to make sure that, we wouldn't want to sacrifice the agricultural and cultural, part of Bolton for bigger economic development or whatever, so just how to keep the agricultural and cultural aspects is definitely a selling point for Bolton.
Yes, thank you. Is that the red group?
Yes.
Perfect. And then, does anyone from the green group want to share? Nice, that's on the case.
Okay, Green Group. Starting off with municipal services, the comment was that the town hall staff seems reasonably friendly, but everyone notices how limited the office space is. Offices are getting really squeezed into very tight places. So it seems pretty clear we're going to need a larger town hall at some point. The Houghton building does obviously provide some overflow, but is not really on a scheduled basis. But it does provide the meeting space we need. There was a request maybe that DPW could do more services for owners, citing things like tree damage after storms. Some towns apparently allow the waste, if you will, to be put by the curbside and DPW picks it up for them. There was some question about are the buildings truly ADA compliant? We see ramps, but do the wheelchairs really fit through in a reasonable way? The Houghton building was questioned, and the library we would think would be, but it really wasn't sure if they're up to the current standards or not. Can the town hall be in a new location such as Emerson? Why have we lost Emerson's school to the district when we're building a great big giant high school and spending a tremendous amount of money? We have lost this building as a resource for town, which doesn't seem fair. In transportation, obviously traffic, everybody talks about it. Are there ways to provide better access to some of the rail transportation in Littleton? Possibly South Acton. I think Littleton's more realistic these days. Ride-share parking, where could that be? There's a sighting of the Berlin parking lot at 495 on Route 62, if you've seen that. But even that, you find it gets quite packed. So that's not necessarily one answer, but something like it would be similar. Analyzing the flow and use of back roads, the famous Golden Run turnpike that everybody's using to get around the mess in the middle of town. And South Holton Road has been also cited as well, Sugar Road, trying to get over to East End Road. So these are our sort of backdoor channels that they too are becoming pretty clogged at this point. One suggestion is do not have cul-de-sacs. Use all the roads to improve flow of traffic to integrate into the entire system. I look at this Goose Pond that's just been created by the high school. So that's a road to nowhere, and I would question why that wouldn't be just like a private driveway. So for our roads, why don't they connect to other roads to make it useful for everyone? For the Bolton Police Department, why not a dedicated traffic enforcement unit or officer? Either to do enforcement or to assist at some of these really tough times like the Emerson School exit at 3 o'clock. Perhaps to some extent, I think the high school, we do see officers down there as well. So that would seem to be a very useful enhancement to the Bolton Police Department in terms of dealing with traffic and stopping some of these terrible attempts to make left turns. Sawyer School, there apparently was a bypass plan at one time. We should look at one of the pages, I guess, in 1971's plan. Could there be some way to get out of Sawyer School, possibly to Berlin Road or to Wattaquadock Road? Would we have to do a taking or not? But it seems like something that ought to be looked at. Bicycle routes, having safer bicycle routes, more bike trails. Can we widen some of the roads for bicycles, obviously like downtown has done? And then there was a question of, on these sort of back road bypasses, painting center lines so people don't weave all over the road thinking they own something like Golden Run, right, which is a relatively narrow road itself. And finally, options for senior citizen non-drivers. We know we have a MART van, but it's kind of limited, so we would need some kind of new system for volunteer drivers or possibly paid drivers to give seniors a real viable option to use van service. Water and sewer, again, was cited as before. Do new owners understand what they're getting into? Educating new homeowners, especially people from out of the area who aren't used to well and septic. Land banking, a public water supply, possibly in the Still River area for some possible future use. And possibly some regulation of heavy irrigation and draining your fellow neighbor's well by your own interests? Is there a way to regulate that or control that in some way? Economic development seemed to tie into water and sewer being adequate for businesses. So you really can't have a business without that, and we're citing the Stowe Shopping Center on 117 as a good example of an economic zone that appears to have real problems due to lack of adequate water. Right? We also got into, could the Neshoba Boards of Health assist us in things like water testing? Could there be a way to have a less expensive way to test water on a regular basis so people would really do that and stay away from what they might perceive as a very expensive option for them to test their water? Okay? And as far as economic development goes, getting back on that, finding a way to fill up the Atlantic Microwave Cheltenham plant that hasn't worked so far, and of course Future Electronics, the old Genrad plant really needs a good home. And there was also a comment about we'd like to avoid an Amazon warehouse in Bolton. Could that ever happen here? Housing, looked at the impact of 580 Main Street, the number of units that's going to be built there. Again, ties in with traffic. We'd like to have more multi-unit housing where people like to live in Bolton. They would like something more than just an apartment, more like the Craftsman Village, as it's called, opposite Hebert Candy. That's there right now on Sugar Road. One comment being it's really gotten expensive. So is there a way to reduce those costs? As far as land use goes, improving the phosphid model, Bob Romer is going to try to get in a consultant, Randall Arendt, who's kind of an expert on this way of having mixed types of housing in a given area and preserving as much open space as possible, but offering a lot of options for people. Community center, desperately needed. We agree with that. Senior center, could that be part of the community center? Would obviously depend on the size of the facility that would be built, and a lot of eyes on Camp Resolute right now. Parks and Recreation will be using Camp Resolute for the 2024 summer program. It's obviously a key parcel in town. We need to keep our eye on it. We also would strongly recommend that the town try again on the Community Preservation Act CPA. We're losing a tremendous amount of money that other towns have enjoyed and have done wonderful things with, and we are watching on the sidelines. Open space and recreation, more conservation restrictions possibly, if that's available. Saving family farms. We don't have any kind of real good playground for younger children. We lost the kids' dreamland. Where could that go, and would the town be willing to build something like that? We want to preserve the town center. We want to preserve the agricultural legacy of the orchards in town, and also try to maintain scenic roads as much as possible despite all the other issues we have with traffic. And finally, as far as climate change goes, there's a strong feeling we should have a climate committee similar to Harvard's that has done a lot of good work. And we get into things like some of the electric cars these days. Do we need more EV stations in town? Will there be more of those stations, perhaps at the new Neshoba Regional High School? Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. And then we have our blue group. Just based on time, and I'm going to check and see if any of our Zoom groups want to share after. But yeah, just some of the key findings from your
I'll
group.
just add a couple extras that I won't go into yes to everything you said. And we agree. A couple of things just to emphasize, a community center for all, that came up a lot, multi-generational. We talked a lot about transportation and the balance between having scenic roads, but having access to homes that need, in an emergency situation, where there's a lot of trees down often in our town, and that causes problems. So, you know, working out some kind of a balance there where we live in the country, but we and trees fall on lines. So that was something that came up. We were talking about 117 and the dangers there, everything from the bike lanes to the sidewalks. And certainly the increases, how we're going to deal with calming measures, safe intersections, and yeah, everything you guys already said. So moving on. Water and sewer. we're talking about how it limits the business opportunities, and, you know, looking into that, how that affects our economic development to some extent. The public water supply that we have in the center of town, that's servicing our schools and our municipalities right now is working well, so that was positive. But that we need to prioritize preservation of major aquifers, because there's a lot of water on the surface of Bolton, but then we want to make sure that we're preserving our drinking water and you know, things that we might need the water for in the future. In terms of economic development, we were really talking about where is the right place for that. We spent a lot of time on that. You know, whether that's rezoning, how much we can do in the center, how much goes to the outskirts, where on 117, where other places. It's big. I don't know that we had any resolutions there, but a lot of conversation about it. So definitely something we want to look into more. And that the traffic in and of itself is problematic and discourages business in some cases. We talked about the fact that small shops and mixed use for housing and shops was possibly an appealing option. In terms of housing, again, mixed use, quality design, emphasis on quality design, but also not necessarily a 55+ scenario, more diversity for young folks that are moving into town, folks that are downsizing, more options in those two kind of categories, not age specific, but just life situation specific. And then in terms of land use, we were really focused on how to preserve our farms and our agricultural land. How do we enable those farms who have builders always knocking on their doors? How do we incentivize them to not sell to the builders, or what other options can we give them to you know, still realize the benefit of their land as they retire or move on or whatever, but you know, put us as a town in competition with the builders. Sorry, builders, not in a bad way, but in a way to hopefully responsibly develop or preserve that land, and just provide options for people that are looking to unload a farm, which hopefully won't happen. In terms of climate, it was just needing to meet the state goals. There's a new state stretch code, and I think you guys mentioned like pretty much everything else. Did I miss anything, guys? Okay. Okay. Folks on the internet.
Feedback.
Okay. Over here?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna see if our Zoom group is feeling inspired to report back. You guys are, yes, no? Sure? Okay, let me see if we can get the audio through. No? Okay. Maybe I can. Maybe not. That might be tricky. Okay. They might hear it. Yeah, it might be tricky with the current audio, but you know, everything from tonight is going to be written up anyways, and we can publish the Zoom findings separately, so you know which groups reported certain findings. Are there any remaining questions in the room or major concerns?
What's next?
What's next? So we're going to compile a report of all of the group discussions tonight based on, you know, major findings from the chapters. As we heard, a lot of the findings from each section were pretty similar, but each group kind of had different priorities and takes on certain discussion topics. We're hoping to maybe conduct another forum eventually when we develop more set actions and priorities for each goal. So that would be a more specific outline. That would be in the form of like the implementation matrix, which is a key portion of the master plan. If there aren't any other questions, oh yeah, go ahead.
How long are you going to leave the mapping open?
The crowd map will likely be open for a while. I don't necessarily think we have an end date at the moment, but I would say through the end of the year, likely. Maybe a couple months. I don't see a reason to take it down. So we can leave that out for anyone that's interested in participating. If you haven't seen the hard copy, that's located on the far tables. And then we also have a QR code that you can scan, and you can map any areas of concern, improvement, or priority, and leave any comment. Another feature is that online you can add a photo, so if there's a specific intersection or visual that you think would supplement your comment, feel free to add a photo. Are there any questions on the Zoom room? I think they're all set. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your evenings. We really appreciate it. I just want to point out on the flyer that has the orange, green, and blue box, there's a QR code. You can scan that QR code and it will take you to the project page. I know if you go on the Bolton website as well, there should be links there. So you can access any reports that we mentioned tonight, and updated materials, as well as past survey reports and the existing conditions report. So that's all there. Thank you again.